I was 10 years old when I realized I wasn't planning. Not unwanted, that would come later. Just unplanned. An accident. The daughter who arrived after they'd already finished building their perfect family. Welcome to the Last Lesson channel. If this is your first time here, subscribe for true stories about resilience, growth, and finding strength when life tests you. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. My name is Sarah, and for most of my life, I believed love was something you earned. Not the unconditional kind you see in movies or read about in books. The kind you had to work for. The kind you proved you deserved through perfect behavior, silent sacrifices, and never, ever asking for too much. I was born 10 years after my brother, Marcus. He was the golden child, literally. There are photos of him everywhere in our house. First steps, first day of school, soccer trophies, academic awards. His bedroom was a shrine to potential, filled with college pennants and inspirational posters about reaching for the stars. My room? It was the converted guest room at the end of the hall. Small, quiet, forgettable. I don't remember anyone ever sitting me down and telling me I was less important. That's not how it works in families like mine. It's more subtle than that. It's in the small moments. The tiny, paper-cut wounds that you don't even realize are bleeding until you look down one day and see the scars. Like how mom and dad attended every single one of Marcus's soccer games, even the practices. But when I joined the debate team in 8th grade, they told me they couldn't make it to competitions because someone needed to stay home and prepare dinner. Or how Marcus got a new laptop for his 14th birthday because he needed it for school. When I asked for one at 14, Dad said I could use the old family computer in the living room. You don't need anything fancy, he said. You mostly just watch videos anyway. I remember standing in the kitchen doorway when I was 12, listening to them discuss college funds. They were planning for Marcus's future, which universities, what majors, how much they'd saved. I waited for them to mention me, to say something like, and we'll start saving for Sarah too. They never did. That night, lying in my small room at the end of the hall, I made myself a promise. If they weren't going to invest in my future, I would. Somehow. But here's the thing about being the invisible daughter. You don't get angry right away. You get hopeful. You think maybe, just maybe, if you're good enough, helpful enough, quiet enough, they'll finally see you. So I became the perfect daughter. I kept my room spotless. I never asked for money. When Mom came home tired from work, I'd already have dinner started. When Dad complained about the house being messy, I'd clean it before he even finished his sentence. When Marcus left his dishes in the sink, his laundry on the floor, his projects scattered across the dining table, I cleaned up after him without being asked. Sarah is so responsible, Mom would tell her friends on the phone. She's such a help around the house. I held on to those words like lifelines. She noticed me. She appreciated me. I was helping. I didn't understand yet that helpful and valued are not the same thing. By the time I turned 16, the pattern was set in stone. Marcus was away at college, a prestigious state university, full scholarship plus mom and dad savings. I was entering my junior year of high school, and my role in the family had crystallized into something I couldn't name, but could definitely feel. I was the help. Family gatherings were the worst. Mom would host elaborate dinner parties for Dad's business associates, and I'd spend the entire evening in the kitchen. Cooking, serving, clearing plates, refilling drinks. Sarah, bring out more wine. Sarah, the Mitchells need coffee. Sarah, make sure the dessert is plated beautifully. Meanwhile, Marcus, home on break, would sit in the living room with the adults, laughing and networking and being introduced as our son, the engineering major. When guests asked about me, if they noticed me at all, Mom's response was always the same. Oh, that's just Sarah. She's helping out tonight. Just Sarah. Helping out. Not our daughter. Not she's a junior with a 4.0 GPA. Not she's hoping to start her own business someday. Just the girl in the kitchen. I remember one particular evening, I must have been 17, when one of Dad's colleagues, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, found me in the kitchen washing dishes. The party was still going on in the other room, laughter and conversation floating down the hallway. Honey, shouldn't you be out there with everyone else? She asked. drying a plate I handed her. I smiled. I'd gotten good at smiling. Oh, I don't mind. Someone has to keep things running smoothly. She looked at me for a long moment, something sad in her eyes. You remind me of myself at your age, always taking care of everyone else. Is that a bad thing? I asked. Only if you forget to take care of yourself, too. I didn't understand what she meant then. I do now. That same year, something shifted in me. I was sitting in my room one night, scrolling through my phone, when I came across an article about young entrepreneurs. People my age who'd started businesses, built brands, created something from nothing. And I thought, why not me? I started small. So small that no one even noticed. I began reselling vintage clothes I found at thrift stores, listing them on online marketplaces. I'd photograph them in my tiny room, write descriptions during study hall, pack and ship orders while everyone else was asleep. The first time I made $100 in profit, I cried. Not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. Proof that I could build something. That I had value beyond loading the dishwasher and meal prepping for a family that barely noticed I existed. I expanded. Slowly. Carefully. I taught myself graphic design, social media marketing, business strategy, all from free YouTube videos and library books. By my senior year, I wasn't just reselling clothes. I was consulting for small businesses, helping them build their online presence. I worked in secret. I used a P.O. box for shipments. I created a separate professional identity online. I never mentioned it at home. Why didn't I tell them? Part of me wants to say it was strategic, that I knew they'd dismiss it or shut it down. But the truth is simpler and sadder than that. I didn't tell them because I didn't think they'd care. By the time I turned 18, I'd saved enough to pay for my first semester of community college. Mom and Dad never asked how I was planning to afford it. They just assumed I'd figure it out. I did. And while Marcus got care packages and phone calls and weekend visits, I quietly built an empire from my bedroom. Clients never knew they were working with a teenager operating between calculus homework and cooking family dinners. They just knew I was good. Really good. The business grew. The revenue grew. My confidence grew. But at home, nothing changed. I was still just Sarah. Still helping out. Still invisible. I kept waiting for the moment they'd ask about my life, about my plans, about who I was becoming when they weren't paying attention. That question never came. And then, 3 years later, on a cold Christmas Eve when I was 21 years old, everything changed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, you need to understand just how invisible I'd become, and how much I'd built in the shadows while they weren't looking. Because the fall, when it came, was going to be spectacular. They say you can't put a price on family, but I learned you absolutely can. Mine cost exactly $2 million, the contract I was about to sign the night my mother called me selfish. If you're just joining us, go back and watch Chapter 1 first. You need to understand how I became invisible before you can appreciate what happened when I finally stepped into the light. December 24th. 3 years later, I'd quietly started community college while running my business from that small bedroom at the end of the hall. I was 21 now, and my little online project had evolved into something my parents still knew nothing about. Why would they ask? To them, I was still just Sarah, the daughter who cooked their meals, cleaned their house, and apparently had nothing more important going on than being available whenever they needed me. My consulting firm, officially registered as Meridian Strategy Group, had 15 clients. Real clients. Companies with actual budgets and serious problems that needed solving. I'd hired 2 contractors to help with overflow work. I had a business bank account with a balance that would have made my parents' eyes water. And on December 24th at 6:30 in the evening, I was supposed to be meeting James Chun. James Chun, CEO of Titan Industries, Fortune 500, the kind of name that opens doors just by being associated with it. He was in town for the holidays, visiting family, and he'd asked if we could meet for dinner to finalize a partnership agreement we'd been negotiating for 3 months. A $2 million contract. The kind of deal that would triple my revenue and establish my firm as a serious player in corporate consulting. I'd been preparing for weeks. I had the contract printed and reviewed. I'd reserved a table at Marcello's, the upscale Italian restaurant downtown. I'd bought a navy blue suit that made me look professional and confident, 21 going on 30, in the best possible way. I was in my room, applying subtle makeup, when my phone rang. Mom. Sarah, what time will you be home? Her voice had that edge to it, the one that meant she was stressed and looking for someone to absorb it. I'm actually heading out soon, I said carefully, applying mascara while balancing the phone against my shoulder. I have a business dinner tonight. Silence. Then, what business dinner? A client meeting. It's important. Sarah. She cut me off. It's Christmas Eve. Your father and I are hosting a party tonight. We need you here. My hand froze, mascara wand hovering in midair. Mom, I told you about this last week. I said I had plans tonight. You said you might have plans. I thought you were talking about going out with friends or something. This is my family, Sarah. We're having important people over. Your father's business associates. The Hendersons. The Kowalskis. The Mitchells. I understand, but I really can't cancel this meeting. Can or won't. Her voice went sharp. Sarah, I don't think you understand how serious this is. Your father is trying to land a major partnership. These people need to see that we're a strong, united family. That means everyone needs to be here. Everyone. Except Marcus wasn't flying in until tomorrow. But of course he had a good excuse. He was Marcus. Mom, this meeting is worth, I stopped myself, worth $2 million. Worth my entire professional reputation. Worth more than playing servant at another party where I'd be invisible anyway. But I couldn't say any of that. She didn't even know Meridian Strategy Group existed. Worth what, Sarah? Worth more than your family. I closed my eyes, took a breath. I have a client coming into town specifically to meet with me. I can't just cancel on him at the last minute. It's unprofessional. Unprofessional. She actually laughed. Sarah, you're playing around on your computer. That's not a real job. This is real life. Real people. Real opportunities for this family. Playing around on my computer. Something cold settled in my chest. 3 years. 3 years of building something real. Something mine, something that mattered, and she thought I was playing. I need you here by 7, Mom continued. We need help setting up, and you'll need to manage the kitchen during the party. Wear something nice but practical. And for God's sake, do something with your hair. Mom, I can't. Sarah. Her voice dropped into a tone I knew too well. The warning tone. After everything we've done for you, given you, the roof over your head, the food you eat, this is how you repay us. By being selfish on Christmas Eve. The word hit me like a slap. Selfish. I'd cooked probably 5,000 meals for this family. Cleaned up after them for a decade. Sacrificed my own needs so many times I'd lost count. I'd made myself small and quiet and convenient for 21 years. And I was selfish. If you're not here by 7, Mom said, her voice cold now, don't bother coming home tonight. I mean it, Sarah. We're tired of you acting like you're too good for this family. She hung up. I stood there in my room, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The navy suit, the professional makeup, the version of myself I'd built in secret. And I realized something. I'd been waiting my entire life for them to see me, to value me, to treat me like I mattered. They never would. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because they decided a long time ago who I was supposed to be. And that person wasn't someone with dreams, ambitions, or a life beyond their convenience. I had a choice to make. I could cancel on James Chun. I could change out of this suit, put on jeans and an apron and go play my role. The invisible daughter. The helper. Just Sarah. I could preserve the peace. Keep the fragile family dynamic intact. Avoid confrontation. And I could kiss goodbye the biggest opportunity of my career. I could watch $2 million walk away. I could prove to myself that they were right, that my work was just playing around, that I didn't matter. Or, I looked at myself in the mirror one more time. No, I said out loud to my empty room. Not this time. My hands were shaking as I packed a bag. Laptop, charger, the contract, a change of clothes, toiletries. I didn't know where I'd stay tonight, maybe a hotel, maybe my friend Jenna's couch, but I knew I wasn't going to that party. I texted James Chun, still on for dinner. Looking forward to finalizing everything. See you at 7:30. Then I texted my brother, Mom's going to be angry tonight. Just a heads up. I'm not coming to the party. His response came immediately. Why? What happened? I have a work meeting. She doesn't think it's important. Sarah, it's Christmas Eve. Can't you reschedule? I stared at his message. Even Marcus, even my brother, who'd always been decent to me, couldn't imagine that my work might actually matter. No, I typed back. I can't. And I shouldn't have to. I grabbed my bag, my coat, and my car keys. I walked down that hallway one more time, past the family photos that featured everyone but me, past Marcus's shrine of a bedroom, past the kitchen where I'd spent countless hours cooking for people who never said thank you. As I reached for the front door, my phone buzzed. Mom again. If you walk out that door, you're choosing your little hobby over your family. Don't expect us to be here when you finally grow up and realize what matters. My finger hovered over the keyboard. I could have written so many things. I could have told her about Meridian Strategy Group, about my clients, about the contract I was about to sign, about the Forbes interview I'd done 2 weeks ago that was published next week. Instead, I wrote, asterisk, I'm choosing myself. I'm sorry you see that as betrayal. Asterisk. I turned off my phone, and I walked out. The December air bit at my face as I got into my car. My hands were still shaking. My chest felt tight. But underneath the fear and the guilt and the sadness, there was something else. Relief. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen me. I drove toward Marcello's, toward James Chun, toward the future I'd built in secret. I had no idea that in 3 hours, my past and my future were going to collide in the most spectacular way imaginable. You know that moment when your two separate worlds collide and you realize there's no going back? Mine happened over champagne and my mother's horrified face. Let me tell you how. Before we get into this, if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss how this ends. Trust me, it gets even better. Marcello's was exactly as elegant as I remembered from my reservation visit. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, the kind of quiet luxury that whispers instead of shouts. I arrived 15 minutes early, which gave me time to collect myself in the bathroom. My hands had finally stopped shaking. I touched up my lipstick, straightened my suit jacket, and looked at myself in the ornate mirror. You've got this, I whispered. This is your moment. James Chin arrived right on time. 7:30 exactly. He was in his mid-40s, gray streaking through his dark hair, with the kind of confident energy that comes from years of making billion-dollar decisions. But when he shook my hand, his smile was genuine and warm. Sarah, he said, it's wonderful to finally meet in person. Your proposals have been the highlight of my inbox these past few months. We settled into our table, and for the next hour, I forgot about everything else. We talked strategy, implementation timelines, and measurable outcomes. He asked intelligent questions. I provided detailed answers. This was the world where I wasn't invisible, where my ideas mattered, where I was simply good at what I did. I have to tell you, James said as our entrees arrived, when my VP of operations first suggested we hire an outside consultant, I was skeptical. But your approach to our supply chain issues, it's exactly what we need. Fresh perspective, innovative thinking. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. I believe the best solutions come from really understanding a company's culture first. Numbers matter, but people matter more. He nodded appreciatively. That's rare wisdom, especially for someone your age. How long have you been running Meridian? 3 years officially, but I've been building toward it since I was 16. Impressive. He raised his wine glass. To young entrepreneurs who see opportunities where others see obstacles. I clinked my glass against his, and something warm bloomed in my chest. Pride. Legitimate earned pride. We signed the contract over dessert. $2 million. My hand was steady as I wrote my signature, the same signature I'd practiced 100 times in high school, imagining this exact moment. I'll have my team send over the first payment next week, James said, tucking his copy of the contract into his briefcase. And Sarah, I'm already looking forward to our next project together. You're going places. It was 8:45 when we finished. James insisted on paying for dinner. Business expense, he said with a wink, and we walked out together into the cold December night. I actually have one more stop tonight, he said, checking his phone. A colleague invited me to a Christmas Eve gathering. Supposed to be good networking. You'd be welcome to join if you're interested. These industry events can be valuable. That's kind of you, but I should probably... My phone buzzed in my purse. I turned it back on after dinner. 12 missed calls. 23 text messages. My stomach dropped. Everything okay? James asked, noticing my expression. I'm not sure, I admitted, scrolling through the messages. They were from Marcus, increasingly frantic. Sarah, where are you? Mom is furious. There's some CEO here asking about you. He keeps saying he was supposed to meet with someone named Sarah tonight. Wait, do you know James Chin? Sarah, call me now. My heart started pounding. What colleague invited you tonight? What's the address? James showed me his phone. I recognized it immediately. My parents' address. Oh my God, I whispered. What? Sarah, what's wrong? I looked up at him, and I could feel the blood draining from my face. That's my parents' house. The party you're going to, those are my parents. His eyebrows shot up. Your parents? Richard and Patricia Morrison are your parents? You know them? Richard's been trying to get a meeting with me for months. He wants Titan to partner with his manufacturing firm. When he invited me tonight, I figured why not? Holiday spirit and all that. He studied my face. But you didn't know I'd be there. No. A laugh bubbled up, slightly hysterical. No, I definitely didn't know. The pieces were clicking together in my mind. My father, trying to impress James Chun. My mother demanded I come home to help the host. And James, who just signed a $2 million contract with me. About to walk into a party where my parents had no idea their helper daughter was his new business partner. This is the meeting your mother wanted you to cancel, James said slowly, understanding dawning. She wanted you home to serve at a party where I'd be a guest. She doesn't know about Meridian, I said quietly. They don't know about any of it. To them, I'm just Sarah, the one who helps out. Something shifted in James's expression. Not pity, I would have hated pity. Something more like recognition. Like he understood exactly what kind of family dynamic he was looking at. Well then, he said, his voice carefully neutral. This is going to be an interesting evening. Would you like a ride? I have a car service waiting. I should have said no. I should have gone to a hotel. Let the night end on a professional high note. Dealt with my family tomorrow when everyone had cooled down. But I'd spent 21 years being invisible. 21 years being dismissed. 21 years building something in secret because I didn't think they'd care. And now the CEO they were desperately trying to impress had just paid for dinner with me. Had called me impressive. Had signed a contract that would change my life. Yes, I said. I'd love a ride. The car service was a sleek black sedan with leather seats and a driver who held the door. This was James Chen's normal. This was the world I was entering. As we drove through my familiar neighborhood, past houses decorated with Christmas lights, James said, "You don't have to do this, you know. I can go in alone. Make some excuse about running into you. Keep your business private." "No," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. "I'm tired of being private. I'm tired of being invisible." "Good," he said simply. "You shouldn't be either of those things." We pulled up in front of my parents' house at 9:15. The driveway was full of cars, the Mitchells' Lexus, the Hendersons' BMW, the Kowalskis' Mercedes. All the important people my father wanted to impress. Through the front windows, I could see the party in full swing. Champagne glasses, cocktail dresses, my mother in her element, playing the gracious hostess. James offered me his arm. "Ready, partner?" "Partner. Not helper. Not just Sarah. Partner." "Ready," I said. We walked up the driveway together. Professional. Equal. Two business associates arriving at a holiday party. James rang the doorbell. Through the frosted glass, I saw my mother's silhouette approaching. I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I watched the door handle turn. And then she was there, perfect smile already in place, the one she used for important guests. "Mr. Chun," she said warmly, "we're so glad you could." She saw me. The smile froze on her face. Her eyes went from James to me to my navy suit to James's arm, which I was still holding. Sarah. She said my name like a question, like she couldn't quite process what she was seeing. What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like? Good evening, Patricia, James said smoothly, his voice friendly but with an undertone of steel. I hope you don't mind. I brought my new business partner. We just finished signing our contract over dinner. The color drained from my mother's face. Behind her, I could see my father approaching, curious about the holdup at the door. His eyes landed on James first, excitement and hope lighting up his expression, then on me. The hope died. Sarah. Dad's voice was confused. Angry. What the hell is going on? James smiled pleasantly. Richard. Good to see you again. I was just telling your wife. I've brought my new partner from Meridian Strategy Group. You know, the firm that's going to be handling Titan's consulting for the next 2 years. He gestured to me. I believe you know Sarah Morrison. Brilliant strategist. Just 21 and already running circles around consultants twice her age. You could hear a pin drop. My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again. My father stared at me like I'd grown a second head. And from inside the house, someone called out, James, is that you? Come in, come in. James looked at me, one eyebrow raised. A silent question, your move. I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and stepped across the threshold into my parents' house, not as their helper, not as just Sarah, but as exactly who I'd become. Shall we? I said. Want to see what happens next? Subscribe and hit that notification bell. Another video drops soon, and you won't believe how my parents react when the truth fully hits them.